Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today we're looking at the discussion focus of a particular supposed event which occurred at the party house onwards, post Noah Presgrove walking away from the house but supposedly still alive. It's in regards specifically with Avery, Carter Combs, the sisters, having it out with each other in regards to Noah Presgrove. Is it considered boy trouble problems this time round? It could be interpreted as the blame game, who's responsible for Noah and his outcome. But of course, there needs to be a bit of context added behind it. And whilst there's been counterpoints for a time, some strongly believe it did happen, others believe it didn't. Now, there is a key common factor amongst the different people, which finds common ground, but it's just not good. But just stay with me today. This could be a raw, uncut video. We'll see how the discussions go, but there can be a level of reasoning ability that can be applied today. If you do find myself whipping this off, it's because I'm getting a little bit warm, all right? Welcome to anyone who's watching during this live premiere. Share your live reactions in the chat box, right-hand side of the screen. And by the end of watching this video, if you want to leave your thoughts below, drop a comment down there, and I can respond back later. Tried replying to the previous video. Credit to those that did watch. I believe there was like a handful that were present. Now, I wasn't watching the live premiere at all times. I was there for the first part and then was just doing some other stuff in the background. But just give a shout out to Tim Daniel, I think, for their super chat last night. Much appreciated, good of them. I wasn't there to see it at the time. That's why I didn't say anything. But yeah, today focusing in on the argument with Avery Carter. It's briefly been brought up in the past, but just not enough. It's not received enough focus. And you could argue and say, well, not enough focus because it never happened. But you would think from an alternative perspective, those that strongly believe that it did happen or putting it into their own narratives, whoever they are, they would be pushing it even more. But it's just kind of quiet overall in general. So we just bring the discussions back because at the moment, there could be some negativity, darkness within the case community. Just focus it in a distraction with a relevant talking point. So for those that are currently hearing this live premiere, just feel free to talk about it or other bits and bobs along the way. If anyone is interested in the video that I did last night and the night before, very important breaking news. If you've missed out, don't worry, you'll be able to find the video link top right corner where the I symbol is up there with the full playlist and some additional loose videos. And furthermore, if you do wish to support this channel, you'll find in the comment section, pinned message at the top by me, additional links to follow through with. For example, the PayPal link, which is one of the most effective ways to do so, besides greedy YouTube. With that all being said, the order of how we'll do it basically today is I'm just going to talk raw about these particular events, the meaning behind it, the possibilities behind it, finding a bit of common ground in between. And if we need to advance onto anything else, we can do so. And if not, I'll just stay with the flow that I'm currently at. I have noticed, I'll just bring up as a little interesting topic, is that when I go on Google Earth satellite imagery, whilst I'm recording my videos via screen recorder on internally when I'm using the phone itself for different apps, Google Earth seems to take up a lot of storage for the recordings. It could be the processing, it could be the video quality, but to be honest, the screen recorder should be recording it at a specific quality consistent with everything else, but no. The file size shoots up with particular areas, so it has a negative impact on the video timing of when trying to upload, which is a pain. So not much can do about that unless I lower the quality of Google satellite imagery, but then it kind of defeats the whole purpose. I noticed in the past people did say during the Kenny Veach days, the case there, that my satellite imagery was so clear and people were wondering where did it come from, how did I manage it, and you know, it's just because it's on mobile. But then again, like sometimes when I've taken photos and people have asked me, do you use a professional camera? And I'm like, nope, I just use a phone. Just works, and if it works, then just keep on doing it, right? So to focus in on the Noah Presgrove case at this moment in time, Granted, I have done a previous video in the past and a bit more of a dedicated one with the usage of the maps, so I don't really need to regurgitate that part today, but I can go over the more complexities in the background with language and wording. So with Avery and Carter, you might be familiar with a past video I did about this porch video recorded by someone of Avery Carter, just outside the doorway where Jasmine stood. You see that snap post at 3:41. Obviously this argument taking place after 3:41. No exact time given exactly, but it's relevant to when Noah was no longer present at the house. And it's kind of divided. It had come up in recent conversations, and Justin Roy may have been present or somewhere when referring to it. Brooke Bounds Carter opposition was saying how it didn't happen, or it doesn't exist, or there's no video of it. Who's right, who's wrong, and what's in between. So we've got to break it down bit by bit. And really, I guess the first place you would start is the time of 3:30 supposedly, when Noah Presgrove had walked away to cool off. And by now, anyone that says Noah wouldn't walk away, those people need to understand that if you support Caden Pressey and you believe in what he says, then you wouldn't even be questioning Noah walking away in the first place. Because Caden Pressey had clearly said, and we've heard it, it was normal for Noah to walk off, especially when drunk. And he would be missing in action for about 30 minutes normally, and then return back. Jasmine Milan roughly saying the same exact thing. So can there be any common ground or agreement? Is it possible where at some point 90 to 99% of the population invested in this case within the community could all agree that Noah likely walked away from the party house? Not in terms of the property, but at least the party house. Would most people agree with that? For opposition, likely would agree that Noah had walked away from the house. For the light side, that are skeptical, but believe in what Caden Pressey says at every word and nod of the head, they too should believe that it's likely for Noah to leave that party house to cool off, based on what Caden Pressey has stated himself, historically speaking. I'm trying to use common sense here. Hopefully other people can see where this common ground is. Just to start off with, got to take in consideration that whilst yes, you got Caden Pressey in Partners in True Crime interview saying at 2:43 to 3 in the morning, around that period of noticing, you got Jack, you got Noah, you got Jasmine awake, specifically Noah present at the house. But then if you used to say around 3 in the morning onwards to 3:20 roughly being the time of when Caden went back to sleep, based on his police recorded interview, which differs to the time significantly compared to Partners in True Crime. Well, in between 3, more so to around 3:20 to 3:20 mark, Caden said he didn't see Noah present at 3:20. He just assumed that Noah was still about. Got to take in mind that it's 3:30 when Noah supposedly left. There was a bit of a 10-minute time difference. But in that 10-minute time difference, what truly went on in those final moments before Noah walked away for good, unknown to him. So likely maybe the bedroom debacle, but would that be going on for 10 minutes? Who knows? These smaller events, if they had been recorded or the audio, you'd probably get a better idea of the time stamp. See, it's just very interesting how up to a certain point you've got certain key time stamps supposedly based off key events which just happen to be recorded, documented for a reason or not. Why were they recorded? why would the side-by-side rollover after effect be supposedly recorded from Caden Pressey's account of what he remembers and what he's shown? Because of the side-by-side rollover, it was cool, it was wild, it was funny, it was a bit wacky and out there, so let's record it as like a memory of some sort, messing about. And then the shower situation, I will just record that because it's to do with Noah. It's kind of funny, we'll mess about. Right, if that's the case, then what? The teabagging, supposedly there's a private video or a video at one point of Noah teabagging people, but not released publicly. What timestamp would that be, though, if anyone knew? And then what? Then it's silent that the bedroom situation and falling out there, that wasn't recorded, but Noah may have called Avery a fat beeb, which could have triggered a bit of outrage, a bit of frustration, could have caused a bit of tension, but oh no, we won't record that. You get what I'm saying? It gets to a point in time where it seems like certain events are no longer recorded, documented by anyone, but there should be, based off the patterns and behaviour of what's happened earlier on in the day or the night before, that there's a moment of drama, there's a moment of conflict, there's a moment of wacky stuff going on. Oh yeah, let's record it, let's pull out the cameras and phones, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we might as well do this as well. And yet that didn't happen. So that's unfortunate. Would have helped greatly, may have complemented Caden's timeline, or may have contradicted it further. So there's that just to take into mind. So really we're working off 3:30 timestamp, and that timestamp hasn't been provided with hard evidence. Just know that. I know some people could say, well then why do I keep using a timestamp if I'm all about hard evidence and material like that? Because I've done a standalone timeline of hard evidence and material. You can always check back that on my channel. And I excluded certain other times which didn't have hard evidence attached. In today's video, it's just an open discussion one, so I can include the 3:30 timestamp. That time could have been reinforced if the CCTV cameras about the house, in or out, trail cameras were working at the time. If they had been, or the Ringer doorbell camera, if that had been working, that could have gone a long way at reinforcing truly whether Noah left or not. So yes, it still gives people ammunition to be awkward and say, well, likely Noah didn't leave the house, he just wouldn't, over this situation, over this situation, over this situation. We need to break the cycle, okay? Because people get so fixated on one point like it's a broken record. Take in mind the other factors on top of this, on top of that, and then on top of the other. It doesn't always just have to be one reason for a person being pissed off. It doesn't have to just be one reason for someone feeling shut out or locking down or feeling sad, or for Noah Presgrove maybe a little bit frustrated at the time. The bedroom situation, granted, whilst Noah may have been okay Saturday night sleeping on the floor, why though? Because he was a bit more drunk, he couldn't make it to a bed, he passed out too soon? That was what some were saying. But on that occasion, with Noah being near Logan, it was a positive trade-off regardless. Oh, I'll sleep on the hard floor. Not great, but I get to sleep next to someone of the opposite gender. You could interpret it that way, possibly. And furthermore, with Monday, despite besides just the rejection of not being in that room, can't have this, can't have that, can't have his own way. Before that, the rejection in terms of being given a lift home, supposedly, it can add to the frustration with Noah in a way. And just to refer back to once again, for the stubborn people that say Noah wouldn't walk away for that one reason, just Noah wouldn't do it anyway, he's not that type of person. Oh, but you believe in what Caden Pressey says, you will always nod your head to Caden and you will get defensive when other people question Caden. Okay, if you're going to be that consistent and loyal to Caden Pressey, well then you should be taking notes correctly then, as in when Caden said it's normal for Noah to walk away. for 30 minutes, then later returned back. From all the parties Caden had attended where Noah was there, that's exactly what happened, and more so on the condition when Noah was drunk. Well, it looks like we ticked the boxes there, because his final party Noah attended, Caden was there, tick. Noah was drunk, tick. Noah supposedly got frustrated and didn't want to drag anyone down, tick. To go off and cool down, tick. But this one time couldn't make it back from the looks of it. So I just wanted to use that repetition and maybe a little bit of alliteration here and there just to reinforce the possibilities, the common sense, right? Someone walking away or just standing outside to cool off isn't a big deal. And it wouldn't be in this case if Noah was still alive. But because he never made it back, that's where it hits hard. You think of those mysteries, those missing person cases. Someone could be camping in a tent. You could get a couple, you could get a family, you could get friends hanging out somewhere. And then there's a noise in the distance and one of the friends says, "Oh, I'll leave the tent. I'll go off into the darkness and I'll go and check and see what's going on. Or I must return back to that car to fetch some supplies. I won't be long." Time passes on and it goes on and on and on to the point where it's like, we've not heard from them. Radio silence. It sparks worry, concern, action likely taken. Enough action taken in the Noah Presgrove case where you could be a little bit skeptical there. I mean, at the end of the day, supposedly a search was conducted. Not everybody believes that happens. I know Justin Roy is skeptical. Justin Roy said the reference about a search taking place to look for Noah only was brought up by partygoers after the mention of the geofencing, which could or would likely reveal the phone pings of where people were at. So if at a certain time partygoers' phones pinged near or at the scene of where Noah was on the highway, well, partygoers throwing in, well, we were there because we were searching, could be done as an alibi to protect themselves. Working on the spot as in, right, plan this out, add this into the mix. So if it does trace us back to here or there, we've actually got an alibi and an explanation behind it as for why we were there. And it only came up of interest to people and to be mentioned publicly after the geofencing, as if they were panicking, scuttling around, trying to grasp on to maintain control. If it had been mentioned at the start about being worried and searching for Noah before the geofencing announcement publicly, then it wouldn't be as suspicious. That's what Justin Roy was basically getting at. Do I believe in it? Well, what I can say is the Snapchat post of 4:30 and before that 3:30 when Noah had supposedly walked away. In terms of that time period of searching practically at around, let's say, the 4 a.m. mark, if Noah had walked away at 3:30, 30 minutes of radio silence, kind of like how Caden would say, 30 minutes of Noah being away, then returning. After that 30-minute silence, panic, possible worry, a search being conducted, it would have to be 25 to 30 minutes long, the search. Brooke and or Sarah Long had said previously 30 minutes to an hour long. It can't be 1 hour long, because to fit it in from 3:30 to 4:30, the Snapchat post back at the house since returning the search would have had to have taken place if it was an hour long at the time of when Noah had just walked away. And that would make no sense whatsoever. Rough estimates of times given by different people in the case. You got to listen into it. Someone may say, yeah, it was about 30 minutes to an hour long. Oh, does it mean say it's an hour long? or at the earliest 30 minutes and the minimal, or could it be somewhere in between? Got to be careful. A rough time estimate isn't great, but it's a lot better, isn't it, when you think about it, compared to others that have given a time from what they can remember, and then later it changes to a different time, regardless of which party goer that is. I would rather choose an estimated time or a period of time estimated of something taking place or what was about to happen next, with that over the likes of a witness giving an uncertain time but wording it as a fact and then later changing it afterwards, which then causes all kinds of either trust issues or confusion and it messes it all up. Does that make sense to people? If you have the actual time, well, then you can be basing it off hard evidence, material, photos, pings, data, and all of that. If you don't have hard evidence to back up the time, you're better off just wording it as estimated between this and that or around this time. It's not good enough, it's not accurate enough, but it's more honest, raw, natural, and people will have a better understanding compared to trying to jiggle about and, have a form of trust in a particular time and then it being turned upside down in the future and then you don't know what to believe. So that's important to acknowledge there. So what I'm getting at is when you've got that Snapchat post, when you've got even Jasmine Milan's snap at 3:41, 11 minutes after when Noah walks away, you can kind of get an idea of an indirect snap or one that's just something just after. You can play it a few minutes before that and say, well, that's probably closer to and more accurate. About 3:30 was when Noah walked away. Likely 25 to 30 minutes of a search conducted. All I would say is, in general, the concept of adding to a story when something could be announced to protect yourself, you might add as you go along. It would make sense, like human reactions and behavior. Does it come down to whether people are smart enough or not to take action or this or that? Take in mind that after the death of Noah, as the days, weeks and months passed on by, for those that are skeptical, that partygoers may not have been like truly seen as mastermind criminals in the moment, innocent partygoers or somewhat drunk and not quite there with it. But if there was any level of dodginess, likely it would be possibly by third-party second-hand influencers who are more there with it, who might just have a better idea plan or better at protecting those that they care, love for. But that would be afterwards, later on in the case. And later on in the case, that's the mention of a search taking place. I didn't hear of a search taking place in the early days of when I was covering the case myself, and I was late to it. So if there's anyone in the background or anyone from the dark side that can mention or acknowledge that the discussion, the mention of party goers actually going out searching for Noah in like a 25-30 minute period for it to tie in between, and if there was any phone pings nearer to the highway but not directly on top of it, just nearby, and it was mentioned early on in the case, more so in 2023, before the whole talk about geofencing, if it was publicly mentioned and referenced, leave it down below in a comment or the chat just for more context. I'm not going to know everything because I wasn't around since day one. Some people could say to me, well, go back to day one, look back at day one information or details. Honestly, there's a time and place where it might be needed, but if you're still learning and you're still trying to catch up with current stuff, it will do no good looking back at the past because it could undo everything you've just learned now. Sometimes you go back to the past looking at old news, which may have been cleared up since. But if you're not quite sure about that, you might start believing in the old news compared to where you're at right now. So technically, you're actually going backwards in progression. That's why I do it at a steady pace. If you reach like a complete dead end, well, then I can understand going backwards. But sometimes looking back can actually undo progress. So you've got to be cautious and wary of that. So referring back to Justin Roy, the mention of geofencing, the mention of the alibi of searching, even though they weren't, what would they be doing then if they weren't searching, but they were still out there? What would they be doing at that time? And what time would that be? Well, if the supposed search took place at 4 in the morning onwards, that's around the rough time of when Noah supposedly passed away, from what Jack Newton said to Justin Roy. That text conversation, I don't know what else was mentioned in it, above or below, whether Jack quoted where he got that information from or not. I said last night in my video that was that linked on with what we're looking at recently, which was to do with the past of the likely cause of death, what could have happened, and what Zachary Wright, OHP trooper, had said in his opinion. That timeline with the estimated time of death as well. And just another side question, if you got an official autopsy report and it's uncertain the cause of death or the time of death, but there is a possible estimate, like an estimate time of death, can that be included on an autopsy report or not? Does it have to be all for certain? And anything uncertain remains blank? Just let me know below. It'd be interesting to see. So you say 4 in the morning, around the time of Noah passing away, estimated time, if we put it that way. If people, partygoers, were out and about, what would be the aim and purpose of that? Not to put words in Justin Roy's mouth, but to try and interpret where he may be coming from. Oh, use the search and concern factor as a cover-up to justify being out there if any phones pinged in the area, which would then lead to what? The timing of when Noah was disposed of and foul play taking place. You can see how you can add one with another. But this is all, well, at least for me, theory idea based. And I do want to jump in right now, to be honest, because I know we're talking about Avery, Carter, the arguments there, but there's just backstory behind it, so then we can get to that point. What I want to refer to is, seen recently, people have been mentioning and complaining that they get attacked, harassed, for thinking that what happened to Noah Presgrove may have been an accident or something that just went wrong, but it wasn't pure murder, right? But then I've seen other times where people have said it's murder and or foul play, and they've been ridiculed, mocked, insulted, and more. Well, from the looks of it, both sides, certain individuals are as bad as each other. And there'll be others amongst who are just always on the receiving end, almost like the victims. You could say in general, people need to do better. These groups need to do better. At the end of the day, if you're giving an idea, a concept, there is no need to be attacked in the first place. You might get the odd exception where someone starts talking about an alien abduction like David Paulides did that time whilst advertising his book. I'm sure people remember that. And if you don't, you need to check back on one of my previous videos where I gave a summary of that. Surely there's got to be common ground. You could even create common ground between the light side, Team Caden Pressey, the dark side, Team Jack Newton. And I can ask it right now. Every witness present and those watching on catch up, regardless of who you detest and who you get on well with, does everybody agree that it's likely Noah Presgrove was not killed by Bigfoot, that Noah Presgrove was not abducted by aliens? Do people agree with that that's all bullshit? If so, well, there you go. You got some common ground to work from there, and no attacks, because when people see things in common, there's not much attacking or energy being given back and forth. It's directed elsewhere for something else. and for something else could be the common cause of Noah Presgrove, which is the overall goal, but clearly that's not good enough and there's still dysfunction there. So you've got to look at the smaller, more meaningful details, more meaningful common ground to build the foundations to maintain or create a level of stability, because it's lacking in the community. Is it equally lacking in the case? Stability, I'd say more so uncertainty, because whether it be the grandmother of Noah Presgrove or other family members, sometimes on Facebook, when things have been announced, a podcast, a radio station, parts in true crime, or reference of police, and people are asking questions, and Presgrove-related family members say, "Oh, thank you for letting us know. Oh, we didn't know about this, thank you." And it's like, wow. So even amongst important people in the case, the victim's family or friends, they're still left in the dark about it. Like there is a breakdown in communication. When it comes to certain items of interest and personal possessions being returned back, as some mention or claim, and other family members are like, what? Nope. Still missing. Breakdown in communication. When it comes to the police and other stuff in the background, seems to be a breakdown in communication. It's not good enough. So there's a level of uncertainty. It can create instability because it creates a bit of worry, concern, and we don't know where it's going or what will happen next. See, in the Dylan Rounds case, it was like that. As for the mother of the victim, Candice Cooley, she pushed hard, very vocal, and very pushy online, and so were members as well. Did it lead to a bit of change or action moving on? Yes, it did. The level of strong energy. I mean, I can't comment too much in this case and community because on the surface level, I don't see much happening, I don't see shit. But there could be a lot going on in the background. So for me to question or go on any further could come across as insulting, could cause its own problems, and then we're in a Tiffany Shepherd situation where World War III breaks off and then I'm caught up in it all. I'm not going to go down that route. Keep it somewhat under control there. But regardless, this is a raw video. Just going with the flow, things that come to my mind, right? So the significance of Noah walking away being the turning point or factor for influencing what would happen after, more so focusing on Avery and Carter, a supposed argument between the sisters, the theme of it being about Noah walking away and I guess blaming one another for Noah walking away, which by that point, to be doing the blame game must mean that they're frustrated with one another because they didn't want it to go that way. They didn't want Noah to walk away, or that the timing of it, because we don't have the timestamp of it, nor do we have the hard evidence of it publicly. If we did, that could tell a story itself. If it was shortly afterwards, maybe not as big of a deal. If it's much later on, time passing by and no news or updates from Noah before or after that 4:30 timestamp Snapchat of Logan and Carter just posing in the camera, and that's all. Well then, if it's after that or around, you could say it's getting a bit more serious because no news, no updates. What do we do next? I know, just to briefly highlight once again, I mentioned a bit earlier about action being taken in some situations where there could be a disappearance of someone or they said they're going somewhere. I mean, in particular, when it comes to Noah Presgrove, how often would Noah Presgrove walk away and not say where he's going or when he's returning back or what he's planning on doing? It's okay saying about, oh no, just to cool off. Would Noah truly cool off in the past? I'm not doubting whether he walked away or not. I'm just questioning, was there another reason? Did he get up to anything else? I guess it depends on the environment. But if others have found him with time and saw where he was or what you're doing, assuming that, well, you had one with another, and the likelihood, the patterns of behaviour, the routine, just resting, just relaxing, cooling off, being in nature, the breeze, the coolness, the quietness, away from all the noise, hecticness. Yeah, it makes total sense. It can happen. People need a time out. Sometimes people need to distance themselves from an environment, a busy one. People need to distance themselves from friends or loved ones, even if they get on really well in the moment, need to detach just for a little bit to heal, to cool off, and any other factors in between. And then once it's resolved or temporarily, return back into the moment and continue with whatever you're doing. That in this particular occasion and event with Noah Presgrove, supposedly a search being done, which would warrant a level of concern and worry for Noah, hence looking for him. Now, even if you wanted to say and counter it with, well, it's an alibi to excuse why they were out there, because actually they were out there for other reasons, disposing of Noah's body. If that really was true, well, then the phone pings would have to accurately ping in the exact spot where Noah's body was at. If it turns out, like with what Brooke had said, it was before Noah's body where the search stopped at, the first sand plank crossing, the crossroad with on the right where Kate and Pressy turned down to take that detour afterwards when going back home and dropping off Mikey Brylin, Isaac, etc. At that spot, much further down, is where Noah's body was found at. If the phone pings ping before that, then it's less likely to be an alibi and more likely to be a genuine event that occurred. Do you get what I'm saying? I can understand those that are skeptical. If the phone pings ping at the exact area where Noah's body was found at a timestamp of 4 a.m. or a bit later, that could be a bit questionable, I understand. But if there's no pinging down there, but before, earlier on, well then likely it's not dodgy or skeptical, or to be skeptical in my opinion, for that particular reason. But still, the level of concern to search would imply, something's not right. And after 30 minutes of radio silence at 4 a.m, it would make sense for people to maybe go out searching and try and look about. Based off Caden Pressey and what he said in the past, 30 minutes of being away, then returning. This time, didn't return, others concerned. So it seems like other people are on the same wavelength of Caden Pressey then, as for knowing an estimated rough time period of how long Noah is normally away for until he gets back. And because it's failed that point, well, something may have happened, we'll go out searching. But to come back yielding no results, to then just continue on or to rest, you could say it's a little disappointing. No blame, just disappointing, because you'd think after a search for a missing person, the next course of action would be to report them missing to the police. If, and there is a counterpoint to explain why police weren't called, would be that there's been some off occasions in the past where Noah had walked away, had gone over the time limit, people had went searching for him, couldn't find him, then later, the next day or after, got a text, got a call from Noah saying, hey, I made it back, I hitched a ride elsewhere, I got back in the end. Maybe people could presume or assume that's what happened once again this particular time, September 4th. Hence why no need to call the police. Yeah, we've not found him, we are a bit concerned, but to be honest, based off Noah's past behaviour, there's been some times where he has got a lift, hitchhiked, or somehow got a taxi or transportation back home, and it's been okay in the end. Maybe that's what's happened here, the end. If there's no records historically of that happening, well then, what other reason would there be to, just call it a day and think, oh well, never mind. If you searched in the first place, it's because you were clearly worried and concerned. And normally, when there's no successful results during that search, you'd think it would spark more concern and more worry to possibly take more direct action. That never happened then. That's the only little questioning part that I have, and that's my opinion. But whilst I go over this, along the way, just in time, and not just in time as the user name, but I'm saying over the course of time, as like just wording in a sentence only. Over the course of time, some people in the community may be concerned or worried for my safety or my presence, as when I'm around a black hole or a dark force here or there, or that I could get attacked. Well, at the end of the day, and for other people along the way that like to push certain agendas or say that and being manipulated or influenced by dark sides and presences here or there, and for certain people out there to say, well, WarLike Wrath's getting paid off and WarLike Wrath is benefiting greatly by the dark side. Well, just remember that over time, regardless of what case, people always have the chance and opportunity to support a channel because they want to, in general, at any given time. It might just be a coincidence with the timing of one event with another, but furthermore, it's also important to highlight people from the light side have shown support on the channel, right? And it's interesting, not to, shout out credit to everyone that has supported the channel over time, but I just find it interesting that when it comes to the dark side, giving super chats and super stickers, people are criticized and attacked for that. And some people question me. But in the past, when the light side supported my channel with super chats and super stickers, they weren't questioned, or I wasn't classified as being paid off. So it's okay for the light side to support my channel, such as with super chats and super stickers. That's not considered being paid off. But the moment people from the dark side give super chats and super stickers, that is considered being paid off. Yeah, double standards. Okay, let's maintain that balance. Yeah, really good idea. Let's maintain that balance and let WarLike Wrath get paid off from all sides possible, man. Yeah, double the eyelashes, double the wigs, double the earrings, one dark earring, one bright coloured one. Yeah, true balance. That sounds so corrupt, but it's just been a bit lighthearted. But, you see yet another particular event, how it can come across. And one thing I do want to highlight is, at first I thought it was a reference when catching up with previous chat, when it was interpreted or worded by someone, I think it was Sadie, about another channel out there. I'm not going to mention the name. We know the individual. And they created a post showing Brooke Bounds Carter sending a super chat to someone's channel, which is supposedly what I thought was mine, but it wasn't. It was to do with a fake created image, a fake one. And some people could say, how do you know? I know 100% it's fake, and it's very easy to explain it. And I'll mention that in just a second. But another YouTube channel out there in recent time had created a fake image of Brooke Bounds Carter giving a $999 super chat or super sticker to that said channel out there, captioned it, "Oh wow, look at the support I am getting." And some tosspots in the comment section were that gullible in believing it, okay? What people need to understand, and that's what separates creators from inexperienced individuals. When it comes to super chats and or super stickers, the maximum you can donate at one time, one payment, a maximum of $500. It can range from a 99p and 99-cent super chat, super sticker, all the way up to a $500 donation. Have I ever experienced a $500 donation? No, not that I would expect it either. I wouldn't say I'm deserving of something like that, but I've seen it with other YouTube channels out there, okay? Obviously seen like 99 or 100, which is beyond positive. Has there ever been a 200? Or I don't think there has been there, but maybe if you saw one here and then one there a bit afterwards, you could add one and one together. But you get what I'm saying. The maximum amount you can give is 500 in one single payment on YouTube. As for the colour of the box, I'm guessing anything over or around 100 is in the red box. And it varies in colours, unless you can choose to colour yourself. I don't know how that really works, but, I guess the colour red signifies like danger or warning or alert. Bold, bright colour, big shout out, big super chat, big super sticker with impact coming on in out of nowhere, as like what we've seen with some individuals. shout out to them upon this channel. But equally, maybe in the past, from the light side, the same's happened there, credit to them too. They weren't attacked, they weren't questioned, I wasn't, but now when people from elsewhere do the same or something similar, they are questioned or attacked, and me too. It's definitely one-sided, that. It's a little bit dodgy in my opinion. But what it goes to show is, if the maximum you can give in one payment is $500, it means what that YouTube channel did by wording it as $999 with almost like a screenshot proof and evidence of it is clearly 100% guaranteed to be fake based off what I know, how YouTube works, and the maximum limit of what you can give. $999 is not possible. $510 is not possible. $505 is not possible. $500, $499 is possible. And anything below that in a single payment. So obviously, an individual out there has created a fake post, misinformation, possible more so disinformation towards Brooke Bounds Carter. How pathetic is that? And whilst people can say, well, Brooke Bounds Carter has done this or that or said this and that and done her own stuff. Well, in this particular situation, you got someone in the middle, a greasy individual with a whiny voice at times, very sarcastic tone. Hello, individuals. Where is Brooke Bounds Carter at? I hope you're giving me $999 sometime soon. I am no AI voice-generated voice. It's just how I sound. Goodbye for now. That's basically how it comes across. And welcome, Joyce. I heard you got a conspiracy. All right, with those fish slippers. Whoa. Deep pockets, deep shoes, endless holes, loopholes all the way through. So there you go, you got a little impression on the sideline. Not much effort put in because the individual doesn't deserve much effort in the first place. And to be honest, if I make it sound too realistic, my IQ level may drop drastically, and I don't want that to happen. That aside, end of the day, the timing of when support has been shown by the dark side just so happens to be at the same time of when there is important stuff to cover, but I don't go into complete overkill mode as what others would do or anticipate. I still do it in a balanced way, and the dark side reiterate, thank you for keeping it balanced. See, how I could have interpreted it in the past before I was aware or, of the presence of different individuals, that when people from the dark side appear, and there are video ideas or material to work with, and I think the very first one being to do with Alicia Lee and maybe that Dropbox situation and some other stuff, that, yeah, it was something to be covered, but was I thinking or feeling, is this going to go down well, or could it backfire? Could it go wrong? As in, people want me to cover it, but do people want me to cover it in such a way that they would do it themselves, as in all-out attack, being nasty, being dark, and going, really deep to paint someone in a really bad light and going beyond? Well, I didn't want to do that, but I did still present what was present, but I also provided counterpoints and possible for and against arguments. And when that video was done, I was thinking maybe people won't appreciate it or think I did good enough or I didn't go in hard enough the way people wanted it to be. At the end of the day, both the light side and the dark side were satisfied with the video, and so on since. See, I only caught a glimpse of it, but when it came to Justin Roy's reaction in the video that I did yesterday, a certain portion of the video was looking at just the material, which may paint Justin in a negative light. I'm sure I caught a comment by Justin saying, is this what it's all about? Is this all it is? Trying to smear me in a dark or negative way? And it's like, hold on, take a breath, be patient. I did say later in my video, I would explain the situation and my opinion of Justin, and in a balanced way. And I did so. And I believe Justin did stick around for that. See, There is a process and there is timing to it all. I can't mention everything all in a matter of 0.1 seconds, right? I present what's present, whether it's good or bad of someone. Then after I give my opinions and thoughts, or in a separate video, that's what I follow up with. Some people with time can be very impatient. Maybe there was a time where I told off Robbie and I said, be patient, but I didn't mean it in a bad way. And then I don't know of anyone else in between, but still, it worked out. What I'm getting at is when people are negative and dark towards the dark side for simply showing support on the channel because of the timing of it and how people tie one thing with another, even though it's not because of that. There's other reasons or just simple reasons. But by the dark side, that you may interpret as being nasty, dark and pushy and cutthroat, yet those same said individuals are quite okay with a level of reasoning ability by me, even if at times it comes across as if I am supporting the light side. Back and forth, or at least in between, up and down, trying to tick all the boxes and try not to leave much out, cover it all. It can be done. It is being done. And as for today, this particular topic, there's many disagreements, but there'll be some common ground somewhere. And we haven't even got to the main part or the points yet, but it all tells a story along the way. So to bring it all the way back to at such and such a time of when Avery and Carter are on the front porchway, how did that come about? Where did we hear it from? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm showing Partners in True Crime last interview, which had Robin Smith, Ashley Chadwick, Ashley the cousin, Robin the aunt to Noah Presgrove. He made a reference about a video or a event taking place on the front porchway outside the house near to the door of the sisters and the party girl, Avery Carter, having it out with one another. It was first brought up, to my knowledge, by Justin Roy, and I guess that's in the Partners in True Crime interview. Was it ever brought up by Caden Pressey? I can't remember. But still, it's an event that was mentioned at the time with little context, but it was important enough and it stood out to me. I did a reenactment as in what could have been, the possible cause or the reasoning behind it, but I did it on the map. I could possibly recreate it right now, but I would need someone as like a guest. Beauty Gurumu, where are you? Late to the party, wouldn't surprise me, man. But let me just give you an example in a second to get where I'm coming from. In the background, we've got an example, but we'll do it in just a second, okay? But yeah, Justin Roy mentioned it. How would Justin know if it did happen? Brookbound's Carter had said, or recently, it didn't happen or there's no video footage of it. How would Brooke know if it didn't happen? She wasn't there either. You can kind of see that common theme going on. One says it happened, the other one said it didn't, but both weren't there. So they wouldn't really know. Oh, but one knows because people who were there spoke on behalf and told them about it, and then vice versa with the other side and perspective to say that it didn't happen. Those that did witness it, what did they really see? Because at least from what I can remember with what Justin Roy was getting at, no time was given, but more so interpreted after Noah had left the house, walked away, but more so before hearing of the news of Noah's death. You get a rough time period. So you could arguably say 3:41 to 5:15 in the morning or a bit beyond. At a certain point in time, arguing taking place. My only question would be, would it have taken place before or after that 30-minute search, if anyone knows? Is it possible for the argument to have occurred, but for it to be a meaningless thing. It wasn't that big of a deal. Possibly. You know, someone like Justin who says it happened, I'm guessing because of what people have told him. Who told him that it did happen? Kane and Pressy likely asleep at the time, and others inside the house. The fact the location is something you got to take into consideration. Just like when Jasmine Milan did that Snapchat post in the same location at the doorway outside the house on the front porch by herself, a solo selfie. Might not be much suspicion behind it, but the location of where it was taken at. Why was it taken there? What I'm thinking is 3:30 when Noah walks away, and then the likes of Jasmine Milan, wherever she was at that time, maybe overhearing it in the background. 11 minutes later thinking maybe I should go outside the front porchway to what? Have a look around, see if Noah's about or not. Nope, I'll take a selfie then and get on with the party and not think much of it at the time. Is that a possibility? Does anyone know the motive behind Jasmine taking the Snapchat in that specific location away from the party goers? You get what I'm saying? Not that it applies all the time, but when you normally associate a party and people taking photos or recording a video, it will be when everyone is together or close. People in the background, people by your side, a selfie, a group one. To be distancing yourself from everyone else who's inside the house having a good time, for you to go outside to look for Noah, to go outside to cool off, to go outside directly to take that selfie by yourself? I wonder. That's the only little question I have. It doesn't have to be suspicious. It's just understanding the location for an action taking place. That can tell its own story. Just like with Carter and Avery. Why would Carter and Avery take the argument outside away from everybody else? To ensure that nobody would overhear it? Or because it was a private conversation? And you can have a normal, natural private conversation about important stuff. Doesn't have to be suspicious, but you just want to talk amongst someone and have no one else, no other listening ears. I would understand that. But the theme of it supposedly being about Noah Presgrove and him walking away and the two playing the blame game. How significant is that? Well, as I said, if it's before the news of Noah's death and before them being aware of it, well, then it's just simply blaming him for who's responsible for Noah walking away, and that's it. Not as big of a deal, not as linkable to the death in that sense, because they're oblivious at the time. But you could still argue and say it's significant because something so normal as Noah walking away, this particular time, has sparked an argument between the sisters who are friends with Noah to some degree, or one closer than the other. So this one time, different to all the previous times then, supposedly. If there have been arguments in the past where the girls were fighting or saying, oh, why did you scare Noah off? Why did you get him in a mood and now he's distancing himself? If arguments like that have taken place in the past, then this one is no different. It's just the routine. If others or Jasmine have taken snaps in the past to say, well, Noah's missing or Noah's missing out, it's not that big of a deal. It's just the norm. But as I said, this particular case, you look for the factors, elements of abnormalities which stand out, differ to what's the norm in the past. And the things that stand out this time round, that's what you've got to focus in the most. So the sisters arguing, supposedly, if it did happen, is that an abnormality compared to previous times in the past? And to refer to Justin Roy, who brought it up and has on and off in between, that it happened, Justin wasn't there to see or hear it, but someone or some people must have reached out to him to say that it did happen. I do remember Justin Roy mentioning that the argument that took place was actually recorded by somebody. Where was that somebody though? They would have to be outside. And where exactly? In the darkness? Around the side of the property of the house? Peeking around the corner, recording it? Or standing behind that dark, tall tree around the trunk? Who would that person be recording it? And why would they record it? And why did they reach out to Justin? Or who got in touch with who in the first place? See, at the time of when Carter, Avery arguing on the front porchway, how many people were outside of the property? How many witnesses were about seeing or hearing it? If the doors are shut and windows and people are inside partying, and if music's being played, people inside may be oblivious to what's going on outside of the house. The fact that Avery and Carter did not distance themselves further, the fact that they didn't walk off down to the barn area and hide behind there to talk, clearly shows the argument or the discussions weren't of super high importance and confidentiality. We'll just distance ourselves slightly to mention a private conversation, but it just so happens that there is a random individual or a party goer nearby who records it. What is the reasoning for them recording it? And what would the timestamp be? If someone has reached out to you and they've given certain details and it's been made clear that a person was recording it, if it's the same individual that has told you, then likely they should know the timestamp as well, but none have been given, which is very unfortunate. So if anyone else in between or Justin Roy can provide additional context, that could go a long way. Even if the argument is just about Noah leaving and not to do with the death or leading up to that or no mention of revenge, it still fills in a grey area and ties up loose ends. And to highlight what I mean by it being important but not absolutely game-changing, and I'll demonstrate that in a second, I'm going to do a live demonstration right now, so just bear with me for a second. Just need some loose stuff out of the way. Okay. We'll use a different guest this time round. Okay. So just imagine you got Avery, you got Carter. Okay. I can't even get into shot really. Take this off as well. On the front porchway, looking ahead, what way would they be looking at right now? Just a little bit wonky. So you got on the map, north, east, south. Looking south towards the field, okay? Wheat field or not, whatever. Looking south as if you were to go down the highway south towards Terrell or the casino, okay? But you're on site of the property, on the porchway. The door is just behind you. The Ring, a doorbell camera, is behind as well. Was the doorbell camera working at the time? People say, no, it wasn't. If it had been, could have been very important in general, who comes and who goes from the house, at least from the front entranceway. So who's who? Am I Avery? Is this Carter? Well, you just, imagination and that's all. One could be like, and I'm just going to do my normal voice this time round. It could be like, oh my God, how could you allow Noah to leave? Why didn't you keep him here? You know, you're the designated driver, Carter. You could have given him a lift home and he would have been back safe and we wouldn't be confused right now. And then they could respond back and say, yeah, but Noah wanted you to sleep in your bed and be with you. And because you rejected him, he got frustrated and left. And then it could be in between and say, well, yeah, but what about Logan? Oh yeah, what about Logan? Well, Noah went there as well, but he was rejected with the offer. Oh, well, Logan's then to blame. You could see how it goes, like a bit of petty girl trouble, drama, and stuff like that, and sisters fighting with each other. Natural, normal human behaviour. Would it be considered boy trouble or just simply friendship trouble? You know, how could you let Noah go, or you're the reason for Noah walking off? And the reason why a blame game happens this time round is because it's reached the point of no return of Noah, radio silence, something must be wrong. first panic, worry, or first anger, frustration. It comes in different ways, just like the stages of grief. You go from one stage to another, different emotions with time. In this particular case, people could have started off concerned or intrigued, then concerned, then a bit worried, then panicking straight up, and in between that, on and off, a bit of blaming one another for being responsible behind Noah walking off. And even if it's normal for Noah to walk off, because this one time it's dragged on, something must have gone wrong. Noah doesn't want to come back, and it's because of you. It's you. You're the reason why Noah doesn't want to come back. And then it's back and forth, the argument. And that's about it. But did it really happen? It's kind of like uncertainty. Just put the chair back in. See, Justin Roy says it did happen, and from what he's been told, and then someone like Brooke Bounce Carter says it didn't happen, or at least it wasn't recorded. What if it did happen, but it's just not that significant to do with Noah's death, and it's not that suspicious, it's just a petty little argument, and that's it. You know, where you find a bit of common ground with a little bit of common sense in between. You know, a small chance. But I just find it interesting from the perspective of the person that may have recorded it. Why did they record it? And when no one else did, is there a reason behind it? Like the supposed reasoning behind a individual that was at the highway after Kate and Pressy had left it at 5:30. Someone whips out a phone and starts recording the tampering of evidence with Noah's black shorts being removed. You know, oh, I best record this because it could come in useful, handy later. So with the Avery Carter supposed argument, whoever may have been recording it, were they like, oh yeah, I must record this because it could be of use later. I know what's going on in the moment or what could happen next, so I best record it and document it right now. What would be the reasoning for it? Like, if you got a high school fight, people could pull out the phones and record it because they think it's cool and it's drama, and it could be trending online for likes and views and anything else in between to share with people. But if you're doing like a little secret private recording without the consent of others, when a private conversation or argument's taking place, you're recording it, what, for your own pleasure, for future reference, and, you know, to hold on to it, maybe, or would it have been deleted, the clip, the video? Would we hear who's behind the camera? Would you hear heavy breathing? Would you see who it is? Was anyone else in shot or inside the camera, the footage? Most of this is not questioned much, and it has faded away into obscurity. So that's why I wanted to do that video today and that focus. And maybe I spent more time elsewhere talking about other points and features, but, you know, just kind of adds to go, because there's got to be a backstory first of all, as for why Noah Presgrove walked away, okay? And then the blame game afterwards, but a reason for that actually happening, whether it's suspicious or not. Of course, there can be counterpoints where people say the argument didn't take place, but it's the hard evidence to say that the argument didn't take place. So let's just say a supposed timestamp was given of when it took place, but there was a counter snap of the same said individuals inside the house smiling or laughing. Well, then you could say, well, you know, there we go, that clears that up. But if one side says it happened, but they can't provide hard evidence, the other side says it didn't happen, but can't provide hard evidence, then what are you supposed to believe? It's best just calling it a possible theory, concept, idea of a possible event, and the significance behind it, and also how it might not be super important, but it's still relevant as part of the timeline and in general. So I think that's pretty much it for there. Is there anything else we need to transition on to? I don't think so, unless it's one of those things where I think of something important and then I add it on afterwards, or do like a little jump cut edit, even though I wanted it to be done in one whole video length. But, you know, once again, if you are interested in recent coverage, you can always click top right corner, and you can always drop a comment down below to let me know your thoughts of today's video in general. Who knows what will happen next or what needs to be covered next. I'll just do it in the order I think that's necessary or most practical. That's pretty much it. As for Beauty Gurumo, what was I going to say with Beauty Gurumo? I can't remember. I don't know if I was going to say something. Oh, I remember now. So, one last thing, and this is just transitioning aside from the case. So just give me 1 second. Transitioning away. Now we're onto just a brief topic and subject. I could use an object right now, but to be honest, I think it would only give some petty people ammunition. And whilst we do have paragraphs, memoirs, autobiographies from some people in the comment section at times, and questioning here and there, that maybe the next time that I adjust a hair follicle, I will be accused of being the murderer. In fact, if I adjust the hair follicle on this side and move it to the left, I'm secretly a part of the police. Oh no, how sick and twisted. But I saw recently in the chat, I believe last night, that I made a reference to my neck. Which one? There is only one present, okay? I can't even fit it into view. How unfortunate, right? And other areas. When it came to other people's obsessions and darkness there, but I guess the way it was worded, the way it sounded, Beauty Guru Mo, Beauty Guru Mo After Dark, ended up having other ideas and was thinking it was going elsewhere. Because I saw the facial expression, aww, really? I thought it was going to turn into some kind of BDSM thing. Oh, no, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Throw the toys out the pram. No, I'm not turning into a rapper. But should I be wrapping you up in overalls as an operation is done? Beauty Guru Mo, no operations needed. Natural as fuck, baddie ass bitch. All priorities under control. Shit, I'm turning into the hood. That's fine. But you said about BDSM. Is that what I do? I'm the most innocent person around. But if you're talking about Dr. Raph's healing appointments and consultations one-on-one, the door is always open. So for someone to say, oh, I thought we were going down that route. Oh, stop teasing me. Well, that can come across as if maybe one was anticipating a certain outcome, ready for it, ready to grasp and take it all in. But it was only just a little tip, a little suggestion that, oh, I wanted more. Well, don't worry. Beauty Guru Mo, all under control. If you, beauty, require a consultation, one-on-one appointment, healing, if you need healing, if you want healing, if anything hurts, feel free to reach out and it can be done. It just so happens that in the diary, Tim Daniel cancelled his appointment because he realised he got more than what he bargained for and decided to, try and avoid the backdoor approach because the front door doesn't work. Dr. Raph needs to get a screwdriver and adjust it later. But in the meantime, there is always an access point, just like how there's always pockets somewhere on the trousers, front, rear, back, that can be filled as much as they need to be. But don't worry, Beauty Guru Mo, discount codes are available. Don't need to worry about that. So it looks like there is a diary open and it can be done. Of course, extensive tools can be used, Beauty Guru Mo. And you might be wondering, what does that mean? Well, you can have the original black item, which is more experienced but very well worn. You can have the fresh one, which is even smoother, cold the surface. You can have the high resistance band, which is all little intertwined patterns, very tense but very effective. Or you can have the XL strap. It depends for the situation and the body part. But that's just a heads up, of course. Okay? So, with that all being said, hopefully people found the video somewhat interesting. Feel free to hit the like button, that'd be appreciated. If you want to share the video too, that would be useful. And hopefully more people get to see it. Last night's video, the awareness there or at least the reach, was all good to see. Try and keep that momentum going. My name's WarLike Wrath. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.